Hey guys, Ike here from Mike'sOutdoors.com. We're here again today to work on our used bow build. Today we're going to set up our D-loop and we're going to go ahead and install our rest. Now we're not going to do any kind of tuning to our rest or anything like that. We're just going to get it set up level and square and get it set to the right depth in here, you know, on our shelf. So what we're going to do first is we're going to actually establish our D-loop position and tie that on. Now you are going to need a few tools for this. I am going to be using today, I'm going to be using a bow square. I'm going to be using a marker. You're going to want something besides black. I'm going to use a lighter. I'm going to use a set of Allen wrenches. I'm going to use a set of scissors or a knife. I'm also going to use a set of D-loop pliers. And I'm going to use a length of D-loop material made by BCY. This comes in a lot of different colors. We're going to be using the orange on this particular bow because it matches up. So that's pretty much it that you're going to need to get started with this thing. So let's go ahead and get started. Now before I get going here, I want to show you what I've done. This is your burger hole on the back side of the bow. This is where your rest is actually going to mount up to your sight. Of course, I'm doing a video, so here comes the fire department. So this is actually where the bow mounts to your rest. Now, on a lot of these bows, they have this rubberized part that covers that up. Some of the other ones, you don't have that. So what I've done is I took an extra long bolt that's the same thread and same size as what you would use to mount up your rest, and basically I just ran it through there to make it push through on this rubber piece. So you can see there, you can see the shape of it. That way I can line up everything with my bow rest or my bow square and get everything nice and squared up. So I'm going to put my bow square on the string. I'm going to make sure everything is on there all the way. I want to make sure both pieces are clipped on and level. And at this point, all I'm trying to do is get the up and down. So I'm just going to compare that right there to my burger hole. And I'm actually going to slide it down just a little bit. It's not wanting to slide. Get everything clipped on again. And I went down a little too far. There we go, right there. You can see there's my burger hole right there. And when I lay this on there, I can see pretty much an equal amount on the bottom as I can on the top. It's pretty much in the right center or right position. Got both of our clips on there. My rest or my knock is on there all the way as well, so everything should be good to go. Okay, now that the fire department has passed, I'm just going to take my red marker and I'm going to make a mark above and below that knock, and that's where I'm going to put my D-loop. Okay, so now that I've got that marked, I've changed the position of my bow. I want to tie this nice and flat. So you have to excuse the shop floor in here. I just haven't swept up in a while, and I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do, hopefully this will focus on the string, is I'm going to use this orange string right here, and I may have to tie this twice. It always seems like I have to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an exaggerated knot on here so you guys can really see what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to keep my hand behind it so it'll focus on my hand and not on the floor, and you can see what I'm doing. So we've got our top red mark and our bottom red mark. I'm going to go under the bowstring with the D-loop. I'm going to bring it around to the inside. I'm going to wrap it around behind. I'm going to go over the top of my bowstring, and I'm going to come into this void right here. And that's going to be my first knot. There's what my first knot is going to look like. Now, I'm going to take my lighter and try not to burn my hand, try to keep everything in focus. And I'm going to burn a nice little mushroom on the end of that without burning everything else. That's the hard part. You definitely don't want to burn your string. D-loop, if you burn it, you can always replace it. So right now I can still move it. I'm going to move it to my red mark right on the inside, so this part right here lines up with the bottom of my red mark. We're going to go the opposite of what we did last time. Last time we went under the string. This time we're going to go over. We're going to come up right through this loop right here, through this hole that we caused, and we're going to pull it down. We're going to go over the top and under the string, and we're going to come right back down into this void right here. And we're going to pull that tight. So what that's going to do is it's going to make the exact same loop, the exact same knot, but you can see where my burned end is actually going to be on the bottom side of the string, and on this one the burned end is going to be on the top side of the string. And what that's going to do is it's going to have it pulling in different directions, so it should pull against each other and not come undone. So now we're not going to leave all that in there. We're going to take that. I'm just doing that for effect, so you guys can see. I can see my red mark is there, so I'm going to put the bottom of my loop on there, and it depends on your release how big you want this. My releases both have mid-size head. They're not real small, they're not real big, so I want to leave just a decent size loop. So I'm going to cut this up right there and leave a little end, and we're going to do it again where we're going to burn our end and get us a nice little mushroom on there. Again, I'm talking and it's messing my flame up. This is not locked into position yet, so I can move it around all I need to. There we go. So we got our nice little mushroom, and you can see that one goes down, this one comes up from the bottom, so we have us it's going to pull in the opposite direction. So I'm going to make sure that this is lined up with my red marks. I want the bottom of the red mark on the inside here, bottom of the red mark on the inside there. And once we have that, you're going to take your D-loop pliers. These are made by Viper, and you're going to stretch that tight. Now, if you don't like that length, you can actually untie this and tie it again and cut off a little bit of excess to move that. With my release, I like that a little bit larger loop. You know, that's a pretty good size loop for most people. I like that larger loop. For hunting as well, I like that larger loop because I don't want to be fumbling around trying to get the my release hooked up onto my D-loop. I want to make sure I've got plenty there to actually be able to hook the thing up. Now, that should be about a ½ inch sticking out there from the back of your string. You can see mine's about 3/4, so it's a little bit larger. So you can go anywhere from ½ inch to 3/4 inch on the size of that loop. That's what I prefer. So we're going to go ahead, now that we have our D-loop set up, we're going to go ahead and set up our rest and get that all in position. Okay, now we have our D-loop set up. What I've done is I've basically just attached this, and I've got the back side of it level. And that's all I've done at this point, is basically leveled it out. You can see I've still got it actually kind of loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install my bow square again. Get that clipped on there. And from the back side, I'm just going to eyeball this as far as level goes. But I want this back part, this part right here, to be nice and level. Now there are some complications that you run into with this Hoyt riser because of the bridged part of it, but we're not really going to address that. I'm going to get my ugly face down in here so I can see I had it off. We're not going to really address the problems that you run into with the Hoyt riser, because that's really not what this is about. So I want to make sure that this part right here is nice and level, or level-ish. You can actually get you a level kit out and make sure that everything's perfect on that, but I actually don't really think it's that critical. Now, just by luck, I've got it to where it's pretty dang good. But I'm going to get it out of whack here just to show you guys how I'm going to adjust it. Now on this ripcord, there's a bolt right here that adjusts your left and right, and there's a bolt right here that adjusts your elevation. So I'm going to go ahead, and if it was under normal circumstances, I probably would not mess with that elevation, but I just want you guys to see what kind of, if I can find the right Allen wrench here, what you got to kind of get into. So you can see there that my bow square is on there, and the ripcord is not actually touching it. You can see that there is some space on the bottom of my ripcord from my arrow. So I'll go ahead and move it back over here where we can get it back in the center. So what I'm going to do with this particular bow square is I'm just going to slide it up. This represents how my arrow is going to be, and I'm just going to slide it up until it touches that, and then I'm going to lock it back down. Now, elevation and your left and right, your windage, are not that critical at this point. We are going to end up doing some fine-tune adjustment to it and some changes to it, but in order to get that fine-tune adjustment, we want it as close as possible. In order to get this timed as close as possible, we want to make sure that it's close. So it's not a critical that it's perfect, but we do want it close. So I can feel when I come up, it's actually lifting the arrow up, so I want to lower that down just a little bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to loosen that up, and I'm going to let it slide. Maybe I'm going to let it slide down a hair. Little increments. So I'm going to raise it up again. It's still touching just a little bit as I raise it up. I don't want it, I want it to touch, but I don't want it to move the arrow up. I want it to just come up and touch the bottom of the arrow. So I'm going to disengage it again. I'm going to lift it up. That's perfect. That time when it came up, I felt it barely rub the bottom of it, but I didn't actually feel it lift the arrow up. So that is the elevation that we want for right now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the left and right. And what we're going to need to do that is we're going to need a tape measure. And this is, again, just a rough estimate. This is the rough. They're going to tell you in your owner's manual, if you get one, where to set this as far as setting your center shot. What I always do is put my tape measure up against, you can't see that because my hand's in the way. I always put my tape measure up against the riser, just like this. And I put the center of the arrow at anywhere from 5/8, 11/16 to 3/4. 11/16 is usually a pretty good spot to have that. We're going to loosen it up on our windage, our left and right, and we're going to move this over. And basically, like I said, we're just going to put our tape measure up against the riser, and the front of the arrow, I'm going to put it at, it's right at 11/16 right now. I probably had my hand in the way, and I'm going to touch it. I'm going to try it in several different positions on this riser, if I can do it without getting my hand in the way, and make sure that it's actually running at 11/16 from the front of the riser to the back of the riser, and that's actually about 3/4 there. So I'm going to actually bump it out just a little bit to 3/4. So it's 3/4 in the front, 3/4 in the back. So we're going to go ahead and lock that down. So that is it for now. That is the setup and installation of our rest, and that is the setup and installation of our D-loop. So that's how you do that part of it. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our peep sight installed, and we're going to get our rest. We're going to get our rest into our string and get that thing timed. So this is our used bow build. Check back with us. We launch these every Tuesday and Thursday morning. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and please be sure to check us out on social media under Ike's Outdoors. Appreciate you guys watching.